wrong? What's your view?
I don't think it's, for me personally, I don't think it's okay. Like, I feel like a death should be natural, and so maybe not administering like certain things to kill someone. I feel like that's weird.
Okay, so you think if somebody has an untreatable cancer and they're going to suffer for the next 2 months of their life before they die, and it's inevitable that they're going to die because there's no cure, and they have the option to go ahead and just end their life right then, do you think that they should be allowed to?
That's a toughie, you know? I mean, I've never been in that situation, thankfully, and I don't really, yes, I don't have anyone who's been in that situation, really, so, you know, it's hard for me to say, but I feel like God has it in control, and He knows what's going on, so I think it's a little, I don't know, maybe prejudgmental, but like, I feel like you should let God take His course in life, and you know, it's always the way you want, but...
Okay, well, since you brought up God, don't you agree that God is a merciful and compassionate God?
Yeah.
So do you think that it would be merciful and compassionate to go ahead and take someone out of their suffering instead of forcing them to live that way?
I think it is, but I don't feel like we have I don't think we should have the ability to take that from someone or give it to someone necessarily. Like we could be merciful to people, but I don't know. I think it's a hard topic. So
Opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is that a person in that condition should have the right to make the choice if they want to end their life. But it's got to be qualified that that person is capable of making that decision. You know, a lot of people just think they want to die because they may be suffering in some way, but you know, there's lots of other options. Prayer always answers a lot of questions. If it's to the point where someone is at, I'm sorry. Yeah, if they are terminal, then I think they should be given that option.
Thing that people should do, because only God can decide when you live and when you die. And sick, and their level of faith is where they have chosen to not take medication or anything like that. I think that that's their choice. I don't think that's committing suicide. I think if they're 85 years old and they're very sick, I think that they should have that choice. The right to not take medicine, not to go to the doctor.
And that's a form of euthanasia called passive euthanasia, and I completely agree with you on that one. And what we're really trying to aim towards is just the topic of active euthanasia, because I think that's the one that's more controversial among citizens, because it's what you're saying, it's actually taking a life. Whereas what you're talking about, passive euthanasia, is just as taking away the unnatural forms of medication and sustaining a life, and so letting nature take its course. And I think I would absolutely agree with you on that that should be allowed. I don't think anybody should be forced to be on a breathing machine if they can't breathe on their own. So I would really agree with you on
That's
that.
like a living will. When you're in the hospital and you have to have life support, I think you ought to be able to say, no, I don't want it if there's nothing that they can do. But I don't think it should be legalized, because I think that's going to go into a lot of areas. We've got a problem now with our president, who has made a health care program that's disgusting. And what is he going to do to older people when they're very sick and they don't want to die, they want to live, but the government might be able to come in and choose that, you know, they'd have to commit suicide or they'd have to be killed. I think euthanasia, the word, is not right. It's murder.
And what you're bringing up is called the slippery slope theory, where if we say we legalize it, what else are we going to be legalizing in another 10 or 20 years? And we have examples, like I've done research on examples of societies that have legalized active euthanasia, and here 20 years later, they legalized it some time ago, and here their murder rate, 11% of their deaths in the entire country are due to euthanasia. And that's crazy, and I don't think that's something that I don't want our country to end up there in another decade or 2 decades. I don't think it's right at all. So I think the slippery slope is a huge part to consider whenever you're looking at whether we should legalize euthanasia or not. I think that's a really good point that you're making. So I would agree with that.
I think that what y'all can do as young people, this is just something you can add to it. The way that we're going to see things change in this country and not get things like this passed is we're going to have to pray and ask God to bring in somebody that is committed to Him. And whether we say we can't bring God into this country, that is crazy. That's what this country was founded on. And we need to get on our knees and pray for this next election, or we're not going to be a nation. I can't believe we have a president who we have. I know it. I'm on my soapbox.
I'm in youth and government at my school, and so I like talking about government and things of that nature. So.
Did you guys go to Austin?
Yeah, I did.
It's okay for a person to have the option to die if they don't want to go through their sickness or whatever. So you're for it?
Yes. I think that everyone should decide for themselves.
So when do you think it becomes morally correct to take a life?
I don't think it's morally correct to take a life again.
Do you think that it should be legal?
What?
Like physician-assisted suicide. So if somebody's ill, you think that it should be legal for the doctor to say, "Hey, I can go ahead and take care of this for you." Do you think that that should be legal, or do you think it should still be considered murder?
I don't really think the doctor should suggest it, but I feel like if that's something the person has voiced and they are mentally able to make that decision, that should be allowed. But I don't think that should be something doctors are encouraging to people that are sick unless that's something that they're wanting on their own. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
No, that's a good answer.
Okay. I don't know if that's yes or no.
Okay, what if they're going to suffer a lot, but the illness is treatable or curable, and it would be fixed later on, but they just don't want to go through all of that? Do you think it would be okay for them to just die, or do you think they should wait it out and wait for the cure?
I just think it's a personal decision. If somebody doesn't want to go through things that they feel will be challenging or hard for their family, I think they should be allowed to say, no, I don't want to go through this. I want to go ahead and...
Do you think that it should be applied to things like depression and anxiety and diseases like that?
No, I don't think so. I don't know.
Okay, what if a patient is too ill to communicate their wishes, but the family decides to end their life? Do you think that's okay?
No, I don't think that's okay.
It should be the personal choice.
Yeah, because I know there was that lady, some pregnant lady, this was a long time ago, and I don't really know the story, but she had explained to her husband before if anything happened to her that she wouldn't want to be, if you're in that vegetable state and you don't have any kind of mental whatever, they had talked about that she wouldn't want to do that. And I've told my family, if something ever happens to me and I'm literally, if I'm not there, don't just keep me on support, But if that's not something that they've said to you, no, I don't feel like you have the right to decide that. But I've never been in that position, so I can't really imagine that. But I can never imagine myself saying that about my family, so no.
So, an example of a society that legalized euthanasia is Holland. And 20 years ago, Holland legalized active euthanasia. And now their death rate is 11% from euthanasia. How does it make you feel?
Is that okay? Hey, no, seriously, stop laughing. Is that okay? Is that acceptable? Oh my.